All right, this is video number 3, and my dad is going to tell us a story about. What story is this one about, Pop?
Oh, several.
Okay.
Several stories.
Okay, let her rip.
I find in rereading my diary, there's a lot of sour grapes in there. Complaints about the pilots, the newer pilots, my own pilots, and probably without good reason, but the sour grapes were part of traditional in the squadron.
Okay.
One of the biggest worries was takeoff with a bomb load.
Yeah.
The runway across Saipan could have been a couple hundred yards longer and feel safer, but at the end of the runway was sort of a cliff leading down to the ocean, and we had 200 feet to spare. So on takeoff, the pilot had a couple hundred feet to spare on takeoff, and he could lose a little altitude while he was getting more power in the engine.
Okay.
And I always said a prayer on takeoff because takeoffs were one of the most dangerous times. Fortunately, we always made it, but our pilot, Horace Rich, gradually learned to take off, learned to accomplish takeoffs much better than he had. So
Okay.
towards the later missions, I didn't worry so much, or the whole crew didn't worry so much. But I always said a prayer. One of the missions I'd like to discuss occurred on June 6th, 1945. I'll try to take up the narrative again because I had missed a few. This was mission number 18. And at that time Iwo Jima was secure, and so we could fly up close to Japan and assemble off the coast of Japan. So we flew up and got there ahead of our squadron, our group leader, the mission leader.
Yeah.
So we had to mill around and looking for him. First we got in with another group because we had given up on him. And then just at the last minute, just before our scheduled departure time, we saw him down below us signaling to assemble on him. So we flew down and had the good fortune to settle in the number 2 position, which is just to the left of the mission leader.
Yeah.
The lead pilot. The element of 3, the lead pilot, the number 2 position was on his left, number 3 position on his right, and then the 4th was in the slot, which was the area above the 3.
Yeah.
With a little above the 3, so you're out of there prop wash.
Okay.
So we've headed for the target.
What was the target?
Target was Kobe.
Kobe. Okay.
So we were fortunate. We consider very fortunate to be in number 2 position. I describe in my diary the position of the other crews.
Okay.
So I won't bother to repeat that because it's all in my diary. And we reached the bomb dropping area and considered everything had gone quite well. We dropped our bombs, but just then the fighters hit us. Jerry Creedon who was one of my closest friends there, was a pilot, and he had fitted his number 4 engine, which would be the furthest engine to the right of the pilot.
Yeah. Why'd he do that?
The engine overheated. This is not uncommon for the engines to overheat and had to be fitted.
Okay.
It also caught on fire, so he was able to get the fire out and restarted the engine, fortunately. And just then the fires hit us, and
Japanese fighters hit you.
Japanese fighters hit us, and the fighters were really barreling in on us, and it seemed as though the gunners were really firing right and left, calling out fighter attacks.
Yeah.
Not having a gun to fire, all I could do was, as my diary said, make myself as small as possible. But we didn't sustain much in the way of battle damage, just probably a few bullet holes. But then we noticed that Ed Roche's plane, who was in a different element from our own,
Yeah.
was slowing down, and he had dropped behind the formation, and he got to be as much as a mile back behind the formation. One of the other crews, Ed Serwinski's crew, dropped back to help support him, and but it was too late. A fighter, a Zeke, I think it was, closed in on from the rear, and we didn't see Roche's, that's R-O-C-H-A-T, Roche,
Yeah.
plane firing. The gunners firing, the rear gunner firing. So this Zeke took off his vertical stabilizer. In other words, the tail of the plane.
Yeah.
So, which is you can't fly without a vertical stabilizer. So the plane flew on for a short time, a minute or two, and then started going to the right, and then they got back under control again, and then to the left, and then finally it just finally went into a tight spin, and it went into the ocean.
Did anybody get out?
Five people were able to bail out from the rear of the plane. The officers in the front of the plane had much more difficult evacuation. So I don't believe anyone in the front of the plane made it out.
Okay.
And this was a common problem. The design of the B-29, bailing out of the plane was not given a whole lot of consideration because it was very difficult for the officers in front of the crew. I probably would never been able to bail out.
Okay.
If we were in trouble.
All right. Is that the end of that story?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop this. We could start another video for another story.
Okay.
Okay.